Hi everyone, thank you so much for stopping by today. This is Rebecca from Rebecca's Doing the Crew. Today we have these no sewing gnomes that we're going to make. So let's go over our supplies. We'll use these little baby booties from Dollar Tree, some pebbles or rice. We'll also need some of these long tubed rollers, some felt of various colors. We will also need some golf balls or ping pong balls from the Dollar Tree, some pantyhose or stockings. We'll need pool noodles. We're also going to be using some different socks from the Dollar Tree. And we'll need either some stuffing, polyfill, or some old rags, some faux fur, or else you could also use mop heads from Dollar Tree. We'll need something to cut with, a ruler. We're also going to be using some hot glue, some twine, some ribbon, and little twisty ties or hair ties, these baby blocks. We're also going to use some Jenga blocks and some different pieces of scrapbook paper, paint brushes, and one of these little sleds. Today we are going to be making these large gnomes. They stand and they're so cute and so easy to make. There's no sewing involved to make these gnomes. As you can see, he's got this little sled here as well. The total cost, including the sled, was $4.41 to make this whole entire gnome. He stands a little over a foot tall, and I want to show you guys some of the materials we're going to be using. Last year I had made these candy jar gnomes. They're so cute, so easy to make. I'll link the video in the description. Everything is attached to the lid, so you don't have to worry about taking it on and off to fill your candy jar. They make really great gifts. But anyways, the color scheme for this one I just absolutely loved. So I'm going to show you what I chose to make a large gnome with this coloring. So at the Dollar Tree, they have these large rolls of the felt and white. So we got one of those. We're also going to be using one of these large white socks. I wanted one that had a lot of stretch to it. We'll be using some felt from Hobby Lobby. They're 33 cents with 50% off this week, and they're on sale very often. So I picked up this one. It's called Copper Canyon. It's brown. That'll be for the boots. The white is going to be the arms, the legs, and the hat. And then this will be some decorations on the hat, the brim, and maybe even some gloves or something like that. So then we needed something to use for the beard. And I really wanted to use some white fur. So I'm going to be using this from from Hobby Lobby. It was $9.99 in the Christmas section with 50% off. We just need a little bit of that. I had this left over from last year. But you could also use a mop head from the Dollar Tree. I used that in the gnome I just showed you. Very easy to do. And then if you don't want to use that, you could also pick up these different pieces of faux fur at Hobby Lobby. They're $3.49 and they're in the same aisle as the felt. And you get a 9 by 12 inch piece, and they come in lots of different colors. So that will be for the first gnome we're going to make with the cheetah print kind of design. And then the other one that I just loved has a little bit of a farmhouse feel to it is this one here with the burgundy. It's got some burlap, little hints of gold, the buffalo plaid green, and the burgundy with the olive green. I just love this coloring for this one so much that I decided to go ahead and make another one. And we're going to be using this pair of socks from the Dollar Tree. We just need one. It's got that burgundy coloring. And then I have this brown fur. This came off of one of their Santa hats they just put out. They have the buffalo plaid material attached to them. You just pull the stitching and it comes right out, and you can remove the top of the hat to use this. I actually used these for the candy jars last year, so this is left over, but they just put those hats out. I saw them yesterday at the Dollar Tree. And then for the felt that we're going to use, along with some other materials, we're going to be using this ruby colored burgundy felt. We'll need the olive green, and then we also have this light brown. This will be for the belt. I'm sorry, for the brim of the hat and the boots possibly. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to do yet. I'll figure that out as I go along. So let's get crafty. Okay, for the first portion, we're going to be making the boots. We're going to need 2 pair of these little party favors. You find them over in the baby like shower section. You get 6 in a pack, so we'll make 3 gnomes. So we have 2 sets of those. We're going to have our felt. We're going to need something to fill them with to make them heavy to help give us the weight for the gnomes to stand up. So I have this pebble gravel. You could use sand, you could use rice, anything you want, it's up to you. We're going to need a pencil and a ruler and a pair of scissors. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut a 2 by 6 inch piece, and this is going to be the right size to wrap around our little shoes here so that we can make our boots. So all you want to do is just measure out your 2 inches, and you need 2 pieces obviously. So you'll need 2 inches, 4 inches, and then we're going to go all the way down to 6 inches here. About 6 inches. Doesn't have to be exact, of course. Just as close as you can get it. You just want to make sure you have enough to wrap all the way around. You want to make sure you have them exactly the same height. You can just fold it in half if your measurements weren't exact. And that'll help you to cut them in half a little bit more evenly. We'll also need a small square for the bottom. So what I like to do is I take the boot or the little shoe and I put it on top of the felt and then just draw a little square around the boot or the shoe. Now we'll cut this down to size once we glue it to the bottom. And of course you need 2 of these. So just cut to where the line is. If you fold it in half, you can trace the other side. So this one for the bottom, it doesn't have to be as exact. You just need it big enough to cover the bottom. And we're going to trim it once it's glued on. Okay, so that's for our first pair of shoes. And now we'll do the same for the second. Just want to add some hot glue to the base. And then start putting your rocks down in there. Then add some more glue as you go. Make sure you don't have any up past the ledge because you want your gnomes to sit flat. So really push them down in there, fill in that space. Rice would work better here. I just had these pebbles on hand, so I decided to use the pebbles. Okay, so once you have them all filled in flat, as you can see, they're not sticking up past the bottom here. I can rub my finger on it and it's flat. That one looks like it's a little bit past it, but I can just push that in a little further. There we go. Then what you want to do is fill your spaces in with some hot glue. That'll help add some weight to it as well. And you're not going to see any of this. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's all going to be covered. Okay, so we're going to let those dry. I already did this one, as you can see. It's dry already. So for this pair, we're going to add some rice. So I'm just going to fill it up with some hot glue to help keep it in there. Maybe I better do it this way. Okay, so I've already done this pair of boots. I can show you guys what they look like before they're on the gnomes. And we're going to make this pair here. You guys, these are so easy. Let's make sure these are the same size. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to take your boot, take your felt, your long piece, fold it in half to find the center. Just kind of do that so you know exactly where the center is at. You can see my little mark there. And what you want to do is put some glue right on this front edge of the boot, not the top, just the front edge. Take that center, put it right on the front of the boot. And you want to pull it down just a little bit so it's all the way past that little edge there. Okay, now add some glue to the side. You want to pull it pretty tight. Flip it over, do the same to the opposite side. Again, pull it and get it right on that bottom edge there. Now we're going to have a little bit too much felt, so what we can do is trim this down just a hair. You always want to have more than enough. You can always go shorter. You want to make sure you have enough, so I always cut mine a little bit bigger. Okay. So fold your first flap down in the back. And then add some more glue to this side. Go all the way up so that you can glue the whole seam closed. And as you notice, now our seam is in the back. That's why we start in the front. Okay, so we basically just made a tube around our boot here. So now we need to do the tongue, or the very front of the boot, where we're going to push this down. So you're just going to add your hot glue right to the very top there in the center. Then take your finger, make sure you're right in the middle, and just push. And you want to hold that down for a second to make sure it dries. So now we're going to close up our front of our boot here. We're going to put a little bit of glue and just pinch. So I like to pinch it first so I can see where to add the glue at. Okay, so here's what we have so far. Now we're going to glue the bottom of the boot on. So you're going to take the very bottom, add a lot of hot glue. Make sure you really do around the edge. So I like to do that first to make sure I don't miss any of it. And then add a bunch of hot glue to the bottom. And then take your shoe and just set it right on top in the middle of that square of felt that you cut. Make sure that you have it completely covered all the way across, and then just push that felt down. Make sure you really get those edges glued down nice. And then take your scissors and just trim that excess off. You want to get close, but don't go too close. You don't want to cut it to where you end up starting to see the pink or the blue from the booties. And here's the first one all done. And we'll do the same for the second one. So here's our boots so far. Okay, so now we're going to work on the arms and legs for the gnome. So these are rollers that you can get at the Dollar Tree. I really like these wider ones for the legs. They're a little bit shorter and they just give them a little bit more to stand on. What's really nice about these is there's actually a thick wire inside, which helps give it some stability for the legs. So we're going to need 2 for each gnome, and then for the arms, we're going to use the longer, thinner ones, which helps give us room to fold it and wrap the arms around the gnome. Now, if you can't find these at Dollar Tree, they do sell them at Walmart. I've seen them there. I've seen them at Dollar General. I've seen them at Big Lots. There's lots of stores that actually sell these. I think I've even seen them at Target. For the dark burgundy gnome, this will be the body, and so this will be my arms, my legs, and my hat, and then I'm going to use the green as the trim to decorate them. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap each one of these rollers in this felt. You're going to just add some hot glue to the very edge, the length of the roller, and glue your first one on. And then I glue the second one on. I let it cool down just a little bit. I have a high temp glue gun. I don't want to melt the foam. So you just want to do that. It's okay if it doesn't completely cover as well, because part of this is going to go down into the boot. So if it doesn't completely cover it, if it's a little bit short, that's okay. So just add some more hot glue. And then start to roll. And again, you want to keep it as tight as you can. And then I just hold it in place while it dries for a second. And then add some glue to the edge here. And finish rolling it up. And again, you want to hold it in place while it dries, because you want that seam to stay down, and these seams will all be going towards the back when we put these in. So there's our first leg done. All right, so we have our first 2 legs finished. Okay, so now we have our arms and legs and our boots for each of the gnomes. So those are all really easy to make, and now we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so now I'm actually going to make what looks like a fake sock that gets tucked down inside of the boot. So I'm just taking a regular sock. It used to be really tall. I used them in another art project. We're going to cut about 1.5 inches down to make like this kind of cuff, and then we are simply going to just pull on it, and that makes it roll up, and that will get wrapped around the legs like this and tucked down inside of the boot to look like a sock. So we need 2 of the socks. So this is going to be for the burgundy colored outfit. So there are my socks for the burgundy outfit. And then I thought the dark brown would look okay for a sock to go with the cheetah print. So again, you want to just take and cut about 1.5 inches. Open it up, you just want to pull and it rolls up. And all of these were found at the Dollar Tree. Okay, now we're going to take our golf ball and a pair of nylon stockings, and we're just going to cut a portion of the leg off. We're going to wrap it around the ping pong ball. I'll pull it tight, and then you can wrap an elastic around it. The reason I'm using the elastic to tie it off with is a rubber band. The hot glue will melt right through it and it'll just snap. So try to use something that's not going to break. I do like to put a little bit of hot glue around this to keep it on. It will slide off just because the nylons are slippery. And I want to make sure that once it's on, it stays on. So put some glue around the back of the nose. And then once that's dry, you can cut off some excess nylon. And you'll do that for both of the noses. And what's really nice about using the nylons is you can pick all different skin tones to use for your gnomes. Now we'll start working on the body of the gnome. I'm going to cut 2 pieces of this white pole noodle. This will be for the cheetah print gnome because I'm using a white sock for the body, and I want to make sure you can't see it through just like we did with the felt. So the first thing you're going to do is just cut a little hole right there, and then to get it kind of straight, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Instead of trying to get the knife around, what you want to do is just spin the noodle. So what I do is I just hold the knife in place, and then I turn the noodle in a circle, and that seems to help cut it a little bit more even. You're going to need 2 pieces for each gnome, and what's really nice about these is this is where the legs are going to attach, and the hole in the bottom here is really nice to attach the foam rollers for the legs. So you'll need 2 pieces for each gnome. So again, for the white gnomes, the outfit, I'm going to use the white pole noodle. If you can find them, I recommend getting the white pole noodle for those, just because you are going to be able to see them through a sock or even felt. The other colors they have out right now are either Halloween or Christmas colors, which are pretty dark. All right, so there are our, this one got a little bit long, so I'm going to trim that one just a little bit with some scissors. Knock my glue gun over. Doesn't have to be perfect because they're going to be in a sock and you're not going to be able to tell if one's a little bit bigger than the other one, but you do want to try to keep them close in size. So I'm going to go cut one more set for my other gnome. Okay, so we have our 4.5-inch tall pieces of pool noodle. We have 2 pieces that are going to be side by side, and we need to attach them, and I don't want them to melt from using the hot glue gun. So I'm going to take 4 of these small elastics. You could use rubber bands if you like. And all I'm going to do is link them together. So you open one, open the other one, and you just pull them through like this. And now we've got a double-sided one just because they're small. And we're going to slip it over the top of the first pool noodle here. And then we'll put it over top of the second one, and this will hold them together. These are really nice little elastics. You get 250 in a bag. So there's the top, and we'll flip them over, and we'll do the same thing for the bottom. And if you want, you could even secure them in the middle. It's really up to you. Oh, I just flung that one across the room. Okay, so now they're attached. They're not going to come apart. You don't have to glue them, nothing. They're just, that's exactly how we want them to look. So I'm not going to cut this sock, even though it has this little animal at the top. You won't see it when we're done. So we're just going to stretch out the sock. And all of this is going to end up being underneath of the hat. So as you can see, it kind of looks like a tube. You don't want them to look like this. So this is where the polyfill comes in. So if you don't have polyfill, Dollar Tree sometimes sells, they sell all the time, t-shirts, hand towels. You can rip those and make them into scraps. You could use old t-shirts, whatever you want to do. You just want to fill this in a little bit to fluff it up and round him out a little bit. So you could also use, besides, they have those little pillows they sell sometimes. They're about an 8x8. Those have polyfill in them. You can use an old pillow from around the house, whichever you prefer. So that's our first one. I still have to stuff it. I'm going to go ahead and put the white sock on the white pool noodles. What I do is I like to just take small pieces, and I really just more fill in right in the crease here, and that seems to help round them out a little bit. Since they're kind of wide already, you just need to fill them out the opposite direction. So you just want to take that and stuff it down in the sock. It doesn't take a whole lot to fill these out just because the socks are kind of tight. And as you can see, it's already looking more round just with the very first little amount of polyfill. It doesn't take a lot. I'm just doing a little handful, not very much. You don't need it to do too high up either, just because you're going to be putting that beard in front, so you're not going to be able to notice that he's not perfectly round at the top. So I'll put some polyfill in the back to round him out back here. Okay, now that they're both all fluffy, we're going to take another elastic and tie them off at the top. You can use a rubber band if you like. For the white one, I'm going to cut a little bit of this excess off. Usually I just leave it on, but there's a lot here. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold this down over the top here. And if you want, you can add a little bit of glue to help keep it in place. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is put our socks on the bottom of the legs. So we're just going to wrap this around a few times at the bottom and just push them up. And now it just looks kind of like a slouchy sock. Then you'll do the same to this one. About 3 times around is good. And now we're going to put the feet or the shoes in here. So if you want, you could add a little bit more rice to make it heavier. I personally didn't think it was necessary. So all I'm going to do is take my hot glue and we're going to put it right down inside the boot. And what's nice is these are covered in that plastic at the bottom where the wire is attached. So you just want to make sure the seam for your pants are in the back, and then hold this open and slide your boot down inside. Or your leg down inside, I should say. Okay, so there's my first one. We'll do the same thing for this one. This one's a little hard to get the leg in just because I added that extra foam or felt because it was see-through. So it's a little bit harder to get these in than they usually are. But it'll slide right down into the opening of that little shoe down there, that plastic shoe we used at the bottom. And then just tuck your sock down in the back of the boot so it looks like the socks are kind of just popping out from underneath the edge of the boots. You just want to tuck them down in there a little bit. You can add some glue if you want, it's not necessary. So here I'm just going to fix the boots so they're up over the socks. And now I'm going to add some shoelaces. So you don't want to add the shoelaces before because when you tie it tight, it'll be too tight. You won't be able to get your legs in. Okay, so I glue a little bit of polyfill to the end of the hand, and you could use a tissue if you like. You don't have to have polyfill, just kind of anything you want to use. You could even use some leftover felt if you like to form a little ball. And you're going to cut a rather large piece to make sure you can get it all the way over and touching the sleeve. So what you want to do is you just want to put your felt over the top here, and then take an elastic and tie it off. Make sure you're grabbing part of the roller. So once you kind of have it attached this way, what you want to do is take some twine and you want to tie it off. It's going to help give it more shape. And then we'll cut this excess off to make it look more like a glove. Okay, so now we have the arms, the body, the legs with the feet, and we have our noses. So we're going to start putting this together, and then we'll do the beard and the hat. All right, so the beard, I'm using the brim of the hat from Dollar Tree, and so it's a little narrow, so I'm going to have to double this up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the body of the gnome and I'm going to figure out about midway under his nose to the bottom here. It's going to be about this long. So we're going to cut that just a tad bit longer. All right, so that's the first one. And we're going to pull off the little hairs that come off. When you cut them, you always have a little bit that comes off of the cut line. So you want to move that hair out of the way. And then you're going to do one more. Just kind of measure them side by side, so they're about the same length. Again, clean up all those hairs that have come off on the cut line. It's a little messy. It's not too bad though. All right, so now we want to get these connected to each other. So I'm just going to attach them with some hot glue, and then once we fluff up the hair, you won't really be able to see, and then we'll cut along the edges and just kind of shape this up a little bit once we get it connected. So again, you're just going to add some hot glue. Make sure it's on the material portion, not the hair. And then we'll overlap these. Now once these dry, we're actually going to cut a notch for the nose so we can get it up underneath of the nose really close, and that'll help us to be able to hide it with the brim of the hat. Okay, so once we kind of fluff up the hair a little bit, you can't even tell that we've just made this a little bit wider. It's all going to blend in when we're done, so you just want to fluff that hair up and then smooth it back into place. Okay, so now let's take a Sharpie and we're going to flip the beard so the back of it's on top. And we're going to just kind of center this on the gnome, and we're going to mark the sides of the nose where we're going to want to cut this little notch out at. Again, pull those little hairs off that came loose from the cut line. And let's try it out underneath of the nose here. So see how it will tuck up real nice underneath there now? And then we can trim this up and cut this when we get it all together here. I think it's nicer to cut the beard once you have it on. It just makes it easier to see where you want everything to be. So go ahead and add some glue just up here around the nose line. And then at the very top, but not the rest of it yet, we'll put some more glue on it once we get this cut down to size. So just put your hot glue on there, and then again get it right up underneath of the nose and press that down. Okay, so now we're going to make the hat. So we've got our piece of felt, and all we're going to do is we're going to bring it over to the corner like this. And then we'll cut off this excess. And now we can fold this together to make our hat. And this will be the back. So it's going to be a little bit long, but we'll cut some of the corner off. So you just want to put some hot glue right on this edge. And then you'll bring your hat over. And make a triangle. So we'll let that dry for a minute, and what we'll do is we'll put this inside out so we don't see the seam. So there's the beginning of the first hat. And we can just take this and tuck it up inside. Like that. So sometimes I like to put a little dot of glue on it, or a few little dots of glue, and then just fold that up inside of the hat. Okay, so there's the first part of the hat. And then we'll do the same for this one. The felt from Dollar Tree is a lot thinner, so I'm going to show you a little trick to help get this felt to stay upright a little bit better. First we're going to stuff it, but then we're also going to use a roller as some support. Okay, so there's our second hat. Now we still have to do the brim, but we'll do that towards the end. So I've got 2 rollers and we're gonna get some stuffing. So the first thing we need to do is we need to attach our arms. So I'm going to take an arm and I'm going to bend it just a little bit at the top, and this is going to create like the shoulder, and then we'll attach it with glue right here on both sides and leave it long enough so that you can bend it at the elbow so he can hold something if you want him to hold something. Just make sure you remember about how long, so only fold over about 1 inch, and then you're just going to attach them on both sides with some hot glue and just at the top. Now you definitely want to be generous here with your hot glue because you don't want the arms to come off. So now if you didn't want to add the legs, you could actually just leave him like this. You don't have to add feet. I don't know if you guys can see him, but it looks cute just like this, especially when he's just sitting on the table. He just looks like a short gnome. You don't have to add the feet. It's really not necessary, but I just think they look cute with the little boots that we've made. All right, again, you want to start in the front. Just kind of pull the whole thing down and make sure you get it all the way on before you start gluing it. So now to attach the legs, it makes it easier if you get these arms out of the way a little bit. So we're just going to bend those at the elbows towards the center. See how nice those rollers bend? And we'll do the same for this one. Okay, so to put the legs in, we're just going to cut these tiny little holes in the sock right underneath of the gnome where the holes to the pull noodles are. That way we can put the legs up inside of those holes. So you just want to mark about 1 inch down on each leg so you put them in at the same height, and add some hot glue around the top 1/2 inch to 1 inch of the leg, and then you're just going to slide those into the holes and up into the pull noodles, or it will attach with the hot glue. So you do want to make sure you mark the legs so you put them in at the same height so that your gnome will stand level. So now we will work on gluing this around the hat here and on top of the nose and around the back. So I'm going to put the glue on the gnome to start. Okay, so now we're going to decorate the hats. Let's make it look a little fancy. I have this necklace that has like the bells on it that you get at the Dollar Tree. So I like the gold with the cheetah print. So we're going to attach this to the top edge of the hat. And we'll work all the way around. I just cut out a few stars from the cheetah print felt, and we'll add those to the hat. So now we're going to add some props, and we are going to make some presents. So we have these baby shower blocks from the baby shower section. We're going to take the lid off and glue them on with some hot glue just to make sure they stay. You probably don't have to do this part, but I wanted to make sure it would stay on while I was wrapping it and didn't have to fuss with the lid falling off in between. So we're just going to make these fake presents to put on the sled, and this is just that craft paper or shipping paper that they sell at Dollar Tree in the rolls down in the office supply aisle. So that's what I'm using to wrap this with. And we're just going to put a little bit of hot glue on and wrap this box just like we would a gift. Instead of tape though, we're just going to use hot glue to attach it to the block. So once we have it all wrapped, we can add some twine to make some like little bows around the gifts. I have some red twine, which they usually do sell around Christmas time at Dollar Tree. They also have it in the green and in the natural color. You could use regular gift wrap ribbon here if you wanted to. I'm also going to just make a tiny little bow, and then I'll glue that to the top. You can add some little pieces of floral or greenery to your presents as well. And then I thought it would also be cute to use some just regular white paper. I also used scrapbook paper to wrap a few. And then I wanted some different sizes of presents, so I used the Jenga blocks or the tower blocks and glued them together to make different size packages to put on the sled. So I wrapped those with the scrapbook paper also and put some bows on them, and then I just took a piece of like printer paper and I cut these little tag shapes to make gift tags for the presents. And you're just going to take a pencil and add like a little circle to the top of the tag where the hole would be at, and then you can use a colorful pen or marker to write a word on the tag. So we wrote Merry Christmas, we wrote joy, things like that, Happy Holidays on our tags, and then we just glue them to the top of the gifts. When you glue them on, you can glue them kind of at an angle so they stick up a little bit off of the package. It helps make them look a little bit more realistic. And once we have all of the gifts done, to put them on the sled, I just glued them on where I wanted them to stay because I didn't want them to fall off. For the sled itself, I got this at the Dollar Tree. They have a couple different versions. So we're just using antiquing wax on the top and the bottom of it to give it this natural wood look. On the sides, we painted it dark burgundy. And I took a little bit of the antiquing wax and rubbed it onto the red runners of the sled just to make it look a little bit more aged. And then I took a tiny little bit of gray paint and dry brushed it across the top of the wood pieces just to age it a little bit as well. Then I glued all the pieces to it and I added a longer string to the front so that the gnome would be able to hold it in his hands. Again, I glued all the packages to the top of the sled and then attached the longer string so he could pull the sleds. These are all of the gnomes that I made today. I made the 3 large ones in the sled. The little ones, again, are from last year, and I'll link that video either at the end of this video, or I hopefully can find the link that I can put it in the description box below. So here's some close-up views. Here's the sled with the presents. It was really fun to make those, just the little details. These are the candy dishes from last year, or the candy jars, and then the gnomes from today. As you can see, we added lots of little bows and details to the hats, which really helped make them each have their own little bit of character. So again, when you add up the cost to just make the gnome, it's less than $4. And if you add the sled, it's almost $5. So here are some other videos. We post them every Thursday. We always do DIY crafting videos, and I try to use items from the Dollar Tree in all of my videos. And then we post what's new at the Dollar Tree videos every single Friday. So I hope you guys will check those out as well. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. And here are those other videos from our channel that you might also enjoy. Have a great day, everyone.